Hey everybody, this is Dr. Shea. We're back with episode 4 of 5 Pillars of Chronic Disease. Today we're going to be talking about a decreased immune system. So this has so many different applications around our overall health that I think that this may be one of the most important topics that we'll talk about as we go throughout each of these 5 pillars. So just to be clear, keep in mind your immune system is responsible for protecting your body from foreign invaders that might try to come into your body and become either a symbiotic host or actually take over your body. So what are the examples of this? This is like bacteria, virus, fungus, yeast, these types of things that have a tendency to want to hold on to us and make our lives miserable. Now, your body has 3 different types of immune system that go out and do this job. Number 1, there is the innate immune response. That's the stuff that you're born with, that we get passed down genetically from generation to generation. There is next the adaptive. The adaptive is, when your body experiences different types of bacteria and virus, it keeps track of all of these things to make sure that if those guys show up again, it can go out and beat those guys up, make sure that they don't become a problem for you. The last kind is what's called passive. Passive is the type of immune system that we experience because we've gotten something from externally from the body, from outside the body. This is a good example of that would be like your mother's breast milk if you were lucky enough to be breastfed. So today, in each of those types of immune system, they all work well in the short term. This is very similar to pretty much every stressor that happens in the body. The body's pretty good at adapting to short-term stress. If you get a cold or a flu, your body's going to go out there, it's going to take out whatever that inciting problem is, and then you're going to get back into being well. However, the problem that we face is when we have long-term stress to the body. Now, this could be through any environmental cue, from how you eat, how you move, how you sleep, if your structure is poor, your mental thought processes and so forth. So all of those stressors, if they take place over a long period of time, they lead to big problems. We're talking like autoimmune conditions or things like cancer. These are all immune function issues where the body is not recognizing the difference between a foreign invader and itself. So in those environments, we end up with big problems. Those potentially are ending people's lives. We definitely want to do things differently to avoid going down that path. So how do we do this? Remember, if you have stress from your external environment in the way you eat, move, think, or your structure, or if you're not getting sleep or water, right? Those main structural elements of your environment, if we're doing a poor job, if we are deficient in any of those categories, or we have toxicity in any of those categories, remember your immune system is very energy expensive to run. A great example of that is thinking about, if you have a cold or a flu, do you feel like you have a lot of energy or very little energy? For me, I typically want to take a nap. I want to sleep many hours. This gives my body an opportunity to use all that energy to put to my immune system to go in and take out the bad guys. So now when we come in contact with a stressor in the category of eat, move, think, structure, or sleep, your body is forced to adapt. We call that adaptive physiology. And your body will then have to do something in which it will try to get back on track, back into homeostasis. Now, when it comes to short-term stressors, like for example, if you're walking across the street and all of a sudden you look up and there's a bus that is coming for you, that is a very acute stressor. It is a very immediate stressor. There's a number of changes that will happen in your body function and your physiology that will help you to get away from that bus and make sure that you're safe. So for example, your pupils may dilate, your heart rate may go up, your blood pressure may go up, which is going to help you to run and get the heck out of there, right? Which is exactly what we need. Now, the key part of this, the part that I think is really relevant, is the idea that in that immediate moment, your body is not concerned about catching a cold or a flu. That is a very different type of problem and one that's really not relevant in that moment. So what ends up happening is your body down-regulates the immune function. That means it puts less energy toward your immune function, which in that short period of time makes you much more susceptible to bacteria, virus, fungus, and yeast, and so forth. But if it's just a short-term stressor, you get away from the bus, you survive, then your body comes back into homeostasis, your immune system comes back up, and all is well. Now, the problem is if we live a life that is chronically stressed, like we do in our modern world, where we seem to be going 100% against the way that our body is designed and against giving the body what it really needs from an environmental perspective, then we live in a chronic state of stress, which means we are chronically down-regulating the immune system, which means we are chronically opening ourselves up to all the potential problems that we've just discussed. So guys, what I want you to be thinking about is well, how can I keep my body out of that type of chronic stress? The short-term stressors are going to happen, but the chronic stuff is the stuff that we have to get rid of. So here's a few examples of some things that I think are great from an action step perspective if you want to boost your immune system. Number one, when you're starting a lifestyle change, I always like adding something in. So you can add in a vitamin C and vitamin D supplement. These are really easy to take, but it will help you to be able to keep your immune system up from a nutritional perspective. I like the idea of thinking about eliminating refined sugars from your diet. So table sugar, sucrose, this stuff actually has a very similar molecular structure as vitamin C. So when vitamin C attempts to get inside the cells of our body, sugar also uses the same receptor. It's almost like two keys are trying to go in the same lock at the same time. This does not work. If we have a lot of sugar in our diet, the sugar will actually outcompete the vitamin C getting into the cells. And now we're not able to get and use that vitamin C to be able to help boost our immune system. So if you can cut down your refined sugar intake, vitamin C will then be the one that goes inside the cell. And now we can have that robust immune response, which is really going to be important. So supplementation, eliminating refined sugars. Sleep is super important. We talked about how your immune system is very energy expensive at night, or when you take a nap, you actually can move energy into the immune system category, and now your body's going to be able to fight off the bugs that are trying to get into your body. So that's going to be a good way to do that. So recommendation is about 8 hours of sleep, and if you need to take a nap, please do so. There's no harm in that. That is not a bad thing. You're not going to have shame or guilt for taking a nap. That is a good thing for your body. So listen to it, give it what it needs in order to be successful. Last piece is if you are under chronic mental stress, I strongly suggest if you recognize in your body that you're feeling tense, if your shoulders are up here, if you have muscular tension or you start experiencing a lot more pain, then the idea would be that you would need to start thinking about how to delegate some of your responsibilities. Or maybe outsource them entirely. Maybe you need to start, if you're a single mom and you are responsible for childcare on top of your job, maybe you outsource some of the childcare for a period of time, or you find a workaround for your work schedule. These are all things that are going to help to offload your system, and now your nervous system can calm back down and do the job that it needs. I also think that based upon my experience as a chiropractor, at this point, at 14 years in chiropractic practice, I've seen so many patients that have begun to feel sick. They show up for a chiropractic appointment, they receive an adjustment, and shortly thereafter, their body seems to go into a bit of a high gear mode. Their immune system fires properly, and then they get rid of the bug, and now their body is able to get back on track. There's a lot of new research out there that looks at the correlation between chiropractic adjustments, what's called mechanoreception and proprioception, and how it feeds the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, the HPA axis that fires your stress response. This is an amazing way to be able to move your body out of adaptive physiology into homeostasis, balance, and ultimately an elevated immune response. So go and get your adjustment if you're beginning to feel sick or not well. Or in an ideal version, you would want to stay in that way at the long term. So keep up with your self-care. Guys, I hope this gives you some really important cues on what you can do and a bit of an understanding of how to boost your immune response. These days is probably one of the hottest topics that are out there. So please take some action steps. If you have questions, let us know. We'll look forward to seeing you next week. Take care.